That was crazy, right? Like,
And then people are mad at the big head girl that, what's her fucking name? That she looks like a mothership alien. The Snow White they got, the Puerto Rican Snow White.
Jesus Christ, I did not know where you were going there.
You can kiss me!
Joe is Joeing today. Grab your popcorn, hide your wallets, and prepare to witness the cinematic catastrophe of the century, because today we're diving into the glorious train wreck that is Disney's live-action Snow White remake, or, as some are calling it, how to blow $250 million and get roasted by Joe Rogan for free. That's right. Our boy Joe is back, and this time he's taking on the House of Mouse for what can only be described as a masterclass in financial mismanagement. Now, before we get into it, let's take a moment to appreciate the absolute mess that led to this box office faceplant. First, Disney decides to remake Snow White, because, obviously, a nearly century-old animated classic needed a soulless CGI-infested facelift.
Snow White, Rachel Zegler!
Then they cast Rachel Zegler, who quickly turned into the internet's least favorite Disney princess after roasting the original film harder than a Thanksgiving turkey.
Rachel, can you tell us a little bit about your version of Snow White?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White is the girl you remember, but she's definitely made for the modern age.
Add to that some dodgy CGI dwarves and a script so aggressively woke it could put a Starbucks barista to sleep, and voila, you've got yourself a certified cinematic disaster. Now, let's be real. Disney could have seen this coming from a mile away, but instead, they decided to toss Rachel Zegler under the bus and pretend she was the sole reason this movie flopped. Joe Rogan? Oh, he wasn't having it. He straight up said Doge should investigate where that $250 million went. I mean, at this point, even Monopoly money has better value management than Disney. Rogan watched a clip of the film CGI and let out a collective, "Oh wow, that does look bad." And when Joe Rogan, man who willingly drank elk blood on his podcast, thinks something is bad, you know it's next level atrocious.
How
she's
about
a fucking kid, right?
she didn't write that script though, right? And I don't think she made the no dwarves decisions. That was Sir Peter Dinklage. I mean, I'm sure she sucks, but she is very young.
Wait, what's her name? Rachel?
Yeah, so now if you notice the spin on it, they're putting it all on her.
But let's talk about Disney's scapegoat strategy. Instead of admitting that maybe, just maybe, the movie was doomed from the start because of bad writing, poor creative decisions, and enough controversy to fill a reality TV season, they decided to dump the blame on Rachel Zegler.
Garden of Eden? Well, yes. Pause up.
Yes, she made some cringy comments. Yes, she dunked on the original Snow White and had all the charisma of a wet sponge during interviews. But did she personally greenlight a $250 million budget for a film that looks like it was rendered on a 2003 Dell laptop? No, sir. That honor goes to the brilliant minds at Disney. And let's be honest, this whole situation reeks of corporate damage control at its worst. Instead of taking accountability, Disney executives threw Zegler to the wolves, hoping the internet's collective rage would distract from the fact that they practically lit $250 million on fire. It's the classic blame the actor move, as if she single-handedly tanked a film that was already rotting from the inside out. This wasn't just a bad casting decision or a few PR blunders. This was a train wreck of epic proportions. Between the soulless CGI, the baffling creative choices, and the sheer audacity of thinking audiences wouldn't notice, this movie was doomed long before Zegler ever opened her mouth.
I needed a job. I'm being so serious.
And speaking of bad decisions, let's talk about that budget. $250 million. That's more than The Dark Knight cost. That's more than Inception cost. And yet somehow, Disney managed to produce something that looks like a rejected cutscene from a PS2 game. Where did all that money go? Did they accidentally wire half of it to the wrong account? Was it embezzled into an underground Disneyland for executives only? Because it sure as hell didn't go into making a film that even remotely justified its price tag. Joe Rogan isn't exactly the poster child for film criticism, but even he couldn't ignore the absurdity. Watching him react to the CGI was almost more entertaining than the movie itself. You know it's bad when a guy who spends half his time discussing aliens and psychedelics is more grounded in reality than the people running a billion-dollar entertainment empire. And yet, here we are. At the end of the day, Disney played themselves. They thought they could skate by on brand recognition alone, forgetting that audiences, yes, even Disney audiences, can tell when something is trash. And now, instead of owning up to the failure, they're pointing fingers, hoping the outrage mob will latch onto Zegler while they quietly sweep their $250 million disaster under the rug. But let's be real, no amount of damage control can fix the fact that this is the movie they thought was worth nearly the same budget as Avengers Endgame. If that's not a sign that Disney is losing its magic, I don't know what is.
Hard to do what we do and to make movies, but I love it so much because I get to see you guys.
And speaking of misplaced priorities, let's do a quick financial reality check. Imagine you had $250 million. You could buy a private island, build a theme park, or fund an independent studio that actually makes decent movies. Disney? They spent it on a film that made the Mario Brothers live-action movie look like a masterpiece. Meanwhile, Hollywood executives are probably scratching their heads, wondering why audiences won't shell out $15 for yet another nostalgia bait remake. Spoiler alert, it's because nobody asked for this. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what about the 7 dwarves? Surely they're the heart of the story, right? Wrong. Peter Dinklage decided dwarves in Snow White were problematic, because apparently fantasy creatures in a fairy tale are now an issue. So what did Disney do? Did they hire actual little people to play the roles? Nope. They went full CGI nightmare fuel, and boy does it show. Rogan's reaction? Oh, it doesn't look real at all, which is the polite way of saying this looks like hot garbage. At this point, you might be asking yourself, wait, what does Doge have to do with all of this? Great question. Nobody knows, but honestly, Doge investigating Disney might not be the worst idea. At least they'd provide better financial oversight than whatever circus was running this production. And hey, while we're at it, maybe we can get Doge to audit all of Disney's remakes and confirm once and for all that they've officially run out of original ideas.
I'm a narcissist. I don't know.
And speaking of original ideas, here's one. If you're enjoying this absolute takedown of Disney's latest disaster, maybe, just maybe, consider subscribing. Not saying you have to, but let's be real. Your YouTube feed is 90% clickbait. And at least here, we give you the juicy drama with a side of sarcasm. So go ahead, hit that button. Or don't. But if you don't, just know that somewhere a Disney executive is greenlighting another unnecessary reboot, and that's on you. Alright, back to the madness. So Disney not only blamed Zegler for the film's failure, but also completely ignored the fact that their own executives were out here micromanaging every little thing. Jonah Platt, the son of the film's producer, straight up said that his dad had to fly across the country to tell Zegler to zip it after she tweeted "Free Palestine" during promo season.
Producer of this movie flew out to actually meet with Rachel Zegler in person to tell her to stop. The thing that Rachel Zegler, I think, did the worst was a number of social media statements basically saying that she did not want half the country to watch her own movie.
Now, whether you agree with her politics or not, you gotta admit, it's kind of hilarious that this was the hill Disney chose to die on. They were totally fine with her slamming the original Snow White, making bizarre feminist takes that made zero sense, and acting like she was too cool for the role. But oh no, a political tweet? That's where they draw the line. Make it make sense, Disney. And can we just take a moment to talk about the numbers? This movie tanked harder than the Titanic, raking in only $43 million in its opening weekend before nosediving with a 66% drop. That's gotta be a record, right? And with a budget of $250 million, you'd expect at least a decent chunk of that to go toward, making a good movie? But nope, the money probably went into corporate retreats where executives brainstormed new ways to kill our childhoods. Oh, and don't even get me started on the modernized Snow White story. Gone is the romance, the charm, and the whimsy. Instead, we get a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a prince and is leading a revolution or something. Cool, except nobody asked for that. You know what people did want? A faithful adaptation with gorgeous visuals, great storytelling, and, I don't know, actual dwarves? But hey, what do we know? We're just the people who pay for the tickets. Now, if you've made it this far, congrats! You've survived the second-hand embarrassment of witnessing Disney fumble harder than a quarterback with butterfingers. And since you clearly enjoy watching Hollywood take an L, why not stick around for more? Seriously, hit that subscribe button. We won't promise you riches or enlightenment, but we will keep you entertained. And let's be honest, that's worth more than whatever Disney's selling these days. Final thoughts? Disney tried to blame Rachel Zegler for this disaster, but in reality, the entire production was cursed from the start. Bad writing, worse CGI, and a desperate attempt to be modern left this remake dead on arrival. And while Joe Rogan may be joking about Doge investigating this mess, at this point, it might be the best idea Hollywood has had in years. So, in conclusion, Disney, maybe next time, instead of butchering another classic, just don't. And to all of you watching, if you had a laugh at this whole debacle, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, or don't. But if you don't, just remember, somewhere out there, a Hollywood exec is pitching Bambi the Gritty reboot, and it's all your fault. That's all for this video, folks. We'll see you next time.